pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly, Carlos Brown. Our guest menu looks like this. One guest today, he's defensive coordinator at Southern University football. Coach Henry Miller joins us in hour number 2. Here's what's trending on the Carlos Brown Show. Southern University baseball. Consistently inconsistent. No ifs, and buts about it. We'll start off the show talking Southern University baseball, the latest information, what's going on with the Southern baseball program. Spring game has come and gone, the blue and gold game at Southern University. A backup quarterback has been found. Mr. Jones had a very good blue and gold game. So a backup, which is so important. Who are going to be your number twos? Southern has found their backup quarterback. Thus, now we go to off-season and fall camp. Last but not least, what's trending on the Carlos Brown Show? The NBA playoffs. And our panel, I'm going to ask them who they got winning it all. We'll look at the first round games, which starts exactly in about an hour. That's what's trending on the Carlos Brown Show. Now, the panel minus A.D. Willa Brown. We'll bring them in one by one. Coach Pettaway, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, all. Carlos and Charles, good morning.
Good morning to you. Charles Edmond, good morning to you also.
Good morning from Ruston, Louisiana, where we got baseball. I know you got baseball, swag baseball on the brain first thing this morning, Carlos.
Yes, and we're going to go right into it. But before we do that, hit the like, share, notification button on the Carlos Brown Show and all of the shows on the Black College Sports Network. So let's get started. Someone in the chat room said if you want your ratings to go through the roof, talk Southern University and UAPB. But guess what? I was going to start off with that anyway, Coach Pettaway. But good morning to everybody in the chat room. Just some notes I've made. Now follow me. Southern defeated Grambling State in baseball, 2-3. They defeated Alcorn State 2-3. But what got everybody in the uproar was they lost that first game of the series with Alcorn. If I'm not mistaken, they lost the first game of the series with Grambling State. Thus, they win the last 2 series. Then comes Southern University and University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. Game 1. Do we see a pattern here? Game 1. And I think if you go and look at a lot of the series, conference series, excuse me, they have not been successful in game 1. So, 15-1. They lose the opening game at Arkansas Pine Bluff. Wait a minute now. We just said consistently inconsistent. I think that is a pattern that we're seeing right now. Then they lost the second game, 13-3. So, 28 runs given up in 2 games, and they've scored 4 runs. Now, I kind of looked at the roster. It's kind of balanced. I thought, that it was basically a young roster. That's not the fact. You got some transfer players in there. Right now, pitching is very bad. But, you just got to say it. From the bullpen, just capitalized pitching is very bad. Southern can basically hit with the better teams in the conference. But that's a lot of pressure, Coach Pettaway. It's like in basketball. You got to outscore everybody.
Right. You got to have some defense somewhere. And in baseball, you got to have good pitching. If you don't have good pitching, for some of the teams, it's going to be like batting practice. I guess that's why we're seeing all these football scores in baseball.
So with that being said, the adjective, the words that you mostly hear is disappointing. A Southern baseball program that's rich in tradition, has done well. Coach Kadar was there a long time, many championships. Also, Kerrick Jackson came in and did a good job. And so now the fans are just disappointed, the ones that I talked to. They're very disappointed. And so now all I will say is time is ticking. 8 teams make it in the tournament. They still can go on a run. We kind of looked at the schedule. It was top heavy in conference at first. Now it's not as top heavy, but they still going to have to get it done. Charles, disappointing. That's the word I'm using, but talking to some other fans, one fan told me it's time for a Stump Mitchell session. You know what that means, but I'm not going to advocate that. But just very disappointing.
Let it play out, Carlos. Let it play out. We've seen teams get rid of coaches with a few weeks left in the regular season, and it always is a disruptor. The unfortunate part is that you got SWAC tournaments coming up, and Southern could make a run, and we'll see what happens there, man. I think that's where Southern is right now. Unless they get hot, they could move up. I looked at the standings. Southern, I think, will make the tournament. I think what will cause them not to make the tournament is they continue to stumble and Mississippi Valley gets hot all of a sudden. So I think they'll make the top 8. Question is, how deep will they go once they get in the tournament? And then from there, if things continue to falter, then you have to kind of decide where you are as a baseball program. Crenshaw winning the tournament after year 1, that got everybody excited. But as Wheeler Brown likes to say, that could be the kiss of death sometimes because you have nowhere to go but down from there. When you win it in year 1. So you're exactly right. Southern baseball steeped in tradition. This is not expected. This is not the level that the fans expected with the Jaguar Nation. But at the same time, you talk about pitching. Who does have pitching right now in this league? Grambling, the defending tournament champion. There's only a couple of teams, 2 or 3 teams, I think, that have decent arms, decent pitching. Bethune-Cookman, I think Florida A&M, and Alabama State. Alabama State traditionally has had a good pitching staff. Bethune-Cookman as well. FAMU's been right there. But Grambling's ERA, a team that can hit the cover off the ball, their team ERA is 9. Ours is lower than that. It's just, finding good pitching is really an issue all over baseball right now, and it's just kind of showing its head here in this conference. And as you talked about, you have a lot of high-scoring games. I saw 35-33 game recently, a box score. There's not a lot of pitching to be had out there. It just exasperated what we got going on as far as the Southwestern Athletic Conference. But that's where we are, and you just have to try to piece it together as best as you can. I think what you're talking about, game 1, when you're talking about a SWAC series, a 3-game series, game 1 usually means your number 1 starter gets the start in game 1. And when you lose, when you give up 13 runs, your starter falters, then you go deep in your bullpen and it just gets worse. And that's the case for a number of teams. So I think that exasperates the problem too. But pitching is at a premium all over the country, and we're kind of seeing it in this conference as well.
Right, and it's ironic. Now, the 3 teams that you named with pitching, Bethune, Florida A&M, and Alabama State, they're 1, 2, 3 in the conference.
There you go.
So they sit at the top of the conference, and I guess it's going to go back to they're the teams that got the better pitching. So, yeah, you got to have pitching. You got to be able to throw strikes. You got to be able to keep the ball in the park, rely on your defense, and that's what you got to have when it comes to a pitching staff. And then, Charles, you're absolutely correct. If your starter goes out there and get bombed, that means you're going to be forced to use your bullpen. Then that throws the rotation off for the rest of the series. And so that's just a fact in baseball.
And I'll also give Carlos, I saw UAPB up close and personal. And of course, we like Carlos James. He was the coach there for a long time at UAPB, expressed some frustrations about some things there. Didn't quite last. But I saw UAPB recently when they came to Alcorn. They're a team that's playing with house money. They may not have the pitching, but they can hit, they defend. So baseball is about pitching, hitting, and defense. If you're committing 100 errors, you're not going to make it very far. If your pitching is not very good at the start, you're not going to make it very far. You can only go so far hitting the cover off the ball. Jackson State was really good with that when they won back-to-back SWAC championships. They can hit with the best of them, but can the pitching hold up? And I think UAPB just has enough of everything. And I think that's why that's where they are. Valley a little bit improved, but and I think if they continue to get better, I think they'll push to make the tournament. It's gonna be tough, but I think for them to be where they are is better than where they've been. They haven't even been in the baseball conversation since Doug Shanks was coach. How long ago was that? And so, I think you're looking a little bit at a couple of teams that are improving in SWAC baseball. You're talking about Valley and UAPB and the Blue Bloods in terms of SWAC baseball, like a Southern University, which we're used to seeing them up there in the standings. And there's no divisions, by the way. It's the top 8. Coaches seem to like it. I was talking to Coach Pierre about that with this new format. Baseball coaches seem to like it because you get a chance to see teams that you normally wouldn't play with the divisions. So come tournament time, when you see some of these teams, you'll be kind of prepared. But I think you're seeing some teams improve a little bit in baseball, maybe put a little more resources, tools in the toolbox. And I think you're seeing the results of that, at least at this point.
And, Charles, I think, if you look at the top of the standings, as you mentioned, Bethune-Cookman, FAMU, Alabama State, Texas Southern, Grambling State, 2 hottest teams as far as on the winning streak are Bethune-Cookman and Grambling State. But I think the biggest questions as of now is who's going to get the 8th seed. And, I'm looking at Jackson State and Southern, Prairie View and Mississippi Valley State and Alabama A&M. Who's going to get that 8th seed? If the season ended now, who would be that 8th seed?
I would say Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Jackson State. It's just, you can never count Omar Johnson's teams out. And look, he just got a new contract. But Jackson State is not Jackson State baseball as we know it, as we've known it. Mm-hmm. Jackson State is used to hoisting the tournament trophy. They're used to making deep runs in the tournament. And they've been one of the first teams out the last few years. That's not been Jackson State baseball. I know Coach Brady, former coach, expects more, but I would say Jackson State simply because I think they've got enough offense to be able to get them through. But, do they have the pitching to be able to pitch through? Because they can score about as many runs as they want to score. So if I were to guess right now, I would say Jackson State. I think Mississippi Valley's coming. I think UAPB is going to be in there unless they just completely collapse, which anything's possible. They're not used to being in this position. First-year head coach, revamp of the program, all that. They're not used to being in this position. But I think if there's a team that can push through and get in there, I think it's Jackson State. Southern's got some work to do. Southern's got to get back on track.
They got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, they've got some work to do. And I think what caught people by surprise last week when Alcorn went in there and won that first game, and I know you were not happy about it. Let's just be real. The Braves were winless in conference. They just got beat 29-1 2 days earlier. So the perception on paper and the eyeball test says, oh yeah, Southern ought to be able to at home. Southern ought to be able to waltz in there and be able to get it done. But the Braves, are a pesky team. We seem to play better when we're behind. But we keep fighting and battling, and that's what happened in that first game. But then, Southern won the last couple.
Well, Paris says the fact we're fighting for an 8th seed. I believe she's a JSU alum with Southern University. And someone in the chat room, I agree wholeheartedly, Jeremiah said, because looking at the schedule, if I'm not mistaken, Southern Jackson State ends the season. And I want to say it's in Jackson. I'll double check. But it could come down to that. But hopefully the Southern baseball team this year can put it together. But when you don't have the pitching, and it seems like several teams you talked about, put them in the same category. The tournament could be wild, Coach Pettaway, but it may not be. The stronger teams, I think, should be able to dominate in the tournament, but a one-bid league in a tournament, who gets hot will represent of the conference.
Well, if the pitching holds up for those top 3 teams, those are the teams that will probably go the deepest in that tournament.
Mm-hmm.
If they got the pitching to go along with the bats, I think those teams at the top, Bethune-Cookman, you all think that they have the best staff, pitching staff. So Pitching is going to be everything when it comes to a term.
If you follow
Mhm.
Bethune-Cookman, Carlos, they have always kind of been, over the last 2 or 3 years, my sleeper team. They have just been one pitch away from maybe getting into the finals. And so this may be their breakout year, like Florida A&M. You know, they've been close, and then they won it a couple of years ago. So this may be Bethune-Cookman's year. I mean, they've been right there. They've been knocking on the door. One less arm, one less bat, one less situation where they come through in the tournament. But they've been right there over the last few years, knocking on the door. This may be, you never know, but this may be the year that they break through.
Yeah, you can't go to sleep on Alabama State now. You know, they've been there before. Yeah, you cannot sleep on Bama State.
And Grambling State, Texas Southern, always to me are dangerous. That's always, and I call them a dark horse, but in a way, you know, Coach Rob, man, they could be sneaky good.
Oh yeah,
when they get in. So with that being said, I think the tournament will be exciting. Edwin says Carlos Southern's biggest issue is ultimately fielding errors. Well, you can throw that in there, but I'd say number one is pitching. I would say number now if you want to say 1 and 1A, but pitching, and that's just a lot of pressure. You know, when you can say, well, this baseball team can hit with anybody, but here comes a big but. You know, when you run up against a good team that has very good pitching, can you win otherwise? Can your pitching hold up? Can your defense, your fielding hold up? And Coach Pettaway, it's like in basketball. Sometimes the ball is just not going in the hoop.
Yep.
But if you have a defense, you can run. And what I used to call your teams,
Defense,
like Nolan Richardson, 40 minutes of hell.
Yep.
That guy Obi Trotter, my goodness, I still have nightmares. You know what I'm saying? But that whole team, it was just pressure, and you find out quick if you can handle it.
Oh yeah.
So
one thing about baseball, Carlos, there's so many little nuances in every little game. You think as a coach, as a player, you got it rolling. Borderline pitches, umpire squeezing the strike zone, can't make a routine play, 4 outs in an inning. And next thing you know, the game blows up on you. Baseball is so minute and so fine in terms of the difference between 6-3 game and a 13-3 game. And I think that's the frustrating part. That's the great part about baseball, but that's the frustrating part about baseball. In basketball, you know, you got to get the 50-50 balls. You got to get your share of those loose balls. But in baseball, so many fine points that can swing the momentum of a game and can really put a damper on a game, a season, or a series. It just depends on how many of those things go your way or not.
Joseph says, mark my words, wow, a team will give up 30 runs in a game during the tournament. Coach Pettaway, that would be shocking.
Yeah, if they gave it up in one game now.
Yeah. I wonder if that's what he's saying. 30 runs throughout. No. If you give up 30 runs, your stay will be short.
Yeah.
But I think Joseph is saying maybe somebody's going to give up 30 runs
during the entire tournament.
I'm guessing
30 runs in a game. In one 7-inning game, Joseph believes someone is going to give up. And of course, with 30 runs scored, that means it's the 10-run rule, 10 runs through 7 innings.
Man, that should be a few innings after that. My goodness.
Yeah. What that tells you, though, if that happens, that is decimating. Because you give up 30 runs, that means that some pitcher, and in a SWAC tournament, you can't go through your whole bullpen in one game or 2 games. You only have so many arms. And I know some teams have deeper pitching than others, but someone's going to be a guinea pig when a game gets out of hand, 15-0, 16-0. Someone's going to be out there to give up 7 or 8 more runs, because you cannot just go through one pitcher in inning in a SWAC tournament situation. So if that happens, someone is going to be a guinea pig. And as a coach, you got to make a short-term decision for the long-term benefit of your team in the tournament.
Well, I know Charles. Go ahead, Coach Pettaway.
No, I was going to say that they may put a utility player on the mound.
Maybe.
You save your bullpen. You put a utility player on the mound and just get out the game, finish the game out.
Yeah.
Because I know when you go to the regionals, and Charles, we've had a chance to go together. Usually Usually, but I think maybe a case or two, Coach Kadar didn't throw his number one pitcher, but the teams that you're going to face, they're not going to throw their ace, of course.
Yeah.
They may try to get by with throwing their third best in the rotation, maybe even the fourth.
Mm-hmm.
But our schools, we will have to, in 99% of cases, throw our number one pitcher because it's win or go home, right? So we've kind of seen that. I remember LSU and Southern baseball. Southern threw Richard, and remember, Charles, you were there. I mean, he threw a magnificent game. He didn't want to come out. But Cato, I guess, had him at a pitching count and took him out. And I think Southern was winning, 1-0. That was it. Go into the bullpen. LSU came up first at batter. He clinks a double. And, that's how it ended up. It ended up losing. But, pitching, we've also talked, people have talked about a good pitching coach. I don't know if all of the programs in the conference have a pitching coach. And if they do, how can is it unrealistic to say get a pitcher with good talent and develop them and have them become a better pitcher than when they first got there? Or is it the lack of quantity and quality pitchers is what's hurting college baseball, particularly in our conference?
I think in our conference, Carlos, a bona fide, dedicated pitching coach where all that person does is work with arms. That's what's direly needed in this conference. Now, I don't know how many teams have that. I would say Alabama State has it. I will be, I can put some money on that one. And I don't know, but I'm guessing Alabama State for sure. But you're just talking about a guy, all he does is work with that pitching staff, nothing else. And so I think with that, that's a resource. That's a financial decision, because to hire a good bona fide pitching coach, it's going to cost you a pretty good salary if you get a good one. And so I think with that, baseball, we know on paper it's a non-revenue sport. And so that's a whole nother financial decision that has to be made there. But if you make that investment, then it can pay off for you. It's paid off for Alabama State. So I think the schools that can do it and is willing and able, I think all of our schools are willing to do that. But I think how many are able to do that? I think that's the big question. It's hard enough with the 11.7 scholarships, which can be increased with this new mandate. But I don't think our schools are doing it because that's just more money that they have to spend. But if you want to get there, you're going to have a bona fide pitching coach. That's all they do, 24/7, 365. And how many of our schools have it on paper and have it for real? I think Alabama State does. Not saying other schools don't, but I think that's what's needed.
It's an investment that's needed. On that note, we'll take a timeout. Coach Pettaway, when we come back, we'll skip a little bit to the NBA playoffs. Our wonderful producer, she has her pick. I think I'm going to be in the minority on all of this. And then I think in the chat room, I'll still be in the minority.
Let's go Heat.
I'm going out. Oh, no.
Come on.
Nah. I'm a realist, Coach Pettaway. I'm a realist. Although when we come back, I'll tell you, they made history. Once again, they made history. But I'm going to talk to Pat Riley during the commercial break. We've got to. We got a good nucleus, but we've got to change some things. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We shall return.
It's like a loot machine. All around town, people trying to get down. It's like a loot machine.
When you're looking looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics, there's only one place to go. Tune in to The Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia from She Say Sports. Make sure to check us out every Friday morning at 9 a.m. on Black College Sports Network, YouTube, and Linktree. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly, Carlos Brown, joined by the panel, Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network, and Coach Vann Pettaway, one of the most outstanding coaches in HBCU history and the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Melanie, you can put up today's bracket and the graphic for the NBA playoffs. Also, quick question in the chat room. Boy, the Jackson State alum, they're not happy with their baseball program. Southern's not happy with their baseball program. Do you think, the question for the chat room, do you think the regular season champion, whoever that will be, will win the tournament, the 2025 SWAC baseball tournament? Now the playoffs, and Coach Pettaway and Charles, we got some first round games about to start. I'll pull that up, but there's a NBA playoffs for the Golden Championship, the tournament. Coach Pettaway?
Yes.
NBA champions. Or you want to do it that way, or you want to go round by round?
Well, no. I'm one of the people that thinks that Boston, they're defending champs. I think they'll be there when it's all said and done. And this is a pick 'em bracket. This must be Melanie's choice with the Lakers. I don't see the Lakers winning no championship game. I don't see them. I don't see the Lakers getting past the Thunder or Denver if they had to play them. So I wouldn't have the Lakers in the West. I got OKC in Boston, and I got Boston winning it all. Because OKC, they have the talent, they don't have the experience.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The prognosticators are saying. Melvin says what? Yeah, that Lakers.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Coach Pettaway said the Lakers. And they're kind of Melody. If you look at some of the national shows, it's always the Lakers, the continuous talk about the Lakers, Luka, LeBron. LeBron's playing center according to the lineups today.
Right.
That's going to be interesting. So they're going small ball. Melanie, the chat room they're saying Lakers. Hey, Lakers in 5. Come on,
Oh,
Melanie.
oh yeah, that's that's
Against Minnesota.
That's Shannon Sharp. You know,
Oh,
he's got the Lakers in 5. You know,
well, he can't be objective.
OKC,
Melanie can be objective, but not him.
Yeah. But yeah, I do. I like Boston. I think they're the defending champs. I think they got experience. They got a great coach on the bench that has been through it before. I think their biggest competition in the East is probably going to come from probably Cleveland. I think that's a good matchup. But I see Boston getting out of the East, and then I think they'll have the experience. And it also got the talent to beat whoever comes out of the West.
Charles?
For me, I love OKC and the year that they had. They got to get some more SWAC hours under their belt. I think they're young. I think they're learning. I think they're coming. But when you get deep into the playoffs, I think it is about experience. I think Boston is kind of disrespected a little bit. No one's talking about the Boston Celtics. Right. They did win the championship last year, right? The last time we checked. But no one's talking about, Boston. Everybody's talking about Luka and LeBron and the Lakers and Cleveland. But Boston did win the championship. So I got Boston winning it. I think they're complete. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, that tandem, if they're on, they're a tough team to beat. They got so many options, so many ways they can go. It can go big, small. So I have Boston winning it all. I think the storyline will be with Luka and LeBron and the Lakers. What will that look like? I think, what Minnesota's going to bring to the table. And that young man there is going to be something special. But the series I want to see that's going to be entertaining to me is that Golden State-Houston series.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be fun. The young guns of the Rockets versus the old veteran Steph Curry. Does he have another run or two left in him with Jimmy Buckets? Jimmy Butler came through in that last game. So that's one series I'm kind of looking at. But for me, I just think Boston is just a complete team. And because of the fact nobody's talking about them going into the playoffs, I think it's good for them. They probably would love it that way. I mean, think about how many people are talking about the Boston Celtics right now. I mean, everybody else. To me, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I think a lot. And then also, I'm going to put up this dire warning for the Celtics. Most talented, defending champions. But what I have seen, and I saw OKC go in, and I know that's regular season, to go in there. The Boston Celtics, as talented as they are, they rely too damn much on 3-point shooting.
Right.
And why not? I like when they put Tatum, he initiates the offense. Put him down in the post sometimes. The big 7'3" guy. He likes shooting out. Put him down in the post. I'm telling you, if they don't make it, it's because they live by the 3. They die by the 3. And I just don't, for the love of God, why they have to shoot that many threes all the time? Because, Coach, the game slows down in the playoffs.
That's what I was going to tell you. Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Carlos. I don't think you're going to see them shoot as many threes during the playoffs because it does slow down. The game does slow down. They even officiated a little different. So I don't think they'll shoot as many. But I'm going to tell you another matchup that I think is going to be interesting. The Clippers against Denver with Kawhi the way he's playing.
Could be an upset.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Kawhi is, if he remains healthy, that's going to be a good series now.
Mm-hmm. The master of the mid-range.
Yes.
A forgotten art. No, the mid-range shot is either bombing from 3 or there's no inside. I don't know what team goes in the inside. Maybe Denver inside plays inside out. Melanie says I hadn't given my pick. I'm going with OKC and Boston in the finals, but I'm going with the inexperienced team that needs to get some more seasoning. Defensively, they're the number one defensive team in the season. They've been that way all season. And what's that young man that's a 6'6" guard that just can flat out play? And then they're role players. Give them the edge as far as the bench. I like OKC. And if they don't get it done this year, I know many are saying, well, there's times coming. It's like the Bulls had to get by the Pistons. The Pistons had to get by the Celtics. It's just not their time now. But I say, why not now? Why not now? So that's my pick. And I know I'm in the minority on it, but okay, Melanie agrees with Lawson there.
Yeah, there's one team we haven't talked about, Carlos. What about a team called the Miami Heat? How about that? How about
what about them? What about them?
When you're in the playoffs, Carlos, when you forget about the regular season, you said it. When you get to this level, when you're in the playoffs, you're thankful that you made it. You made it through the play-in. The Heat have done this before. You think this is going to come to an end here when they play Cleveland? Do you think the Heat could take Cleveland to the break, or you think it's going to be a 4 or 5 game series? I was actually surprised, but not surprised, because I think the Miami Heat have been taking darts all year long. Were they going to make it play in? Were they going to make the playoffs? Well, here they are.
Well, and as I told Pat Riley, you can, and Coach Pettaway, you can get into this thing where it's your norm now to always get in the play-in and then do some damage. Doggone it, let's try to get out of the play-in game. Now, historically, they've done something historic. What was it, guys? They're the first 10th seed, the play-in, to make it. They went on the road twice and defeated, who was it, Atlanta, Chicago first, and then Atlanta last night. Good young nucleus. Bam is now in his natural position, the 4. And Kelvin Ware is a up-and-comer, Coach Pettaway. What do you think about him at 7 foot?
Yep. Well, remember we talked about him last year. I told you he was coming. He's going to be a good addition. Yep. Plays hard.
But I want to get out of this narrative of, it seems like it's a regular season. Well, they go through the ups and downs, more downs. Then when the play-in comes in, then they start playing much better. But as much as I like the Heat, that's still my team. That's my boys. I roll with them. Charles, if they get 2 games, they will be lucky. But I'm going to say 4 games to 1 Cleveland.
Yeah. I would agree with that. And, my prediction, and I'm a Laker fan. I'm a Laker fan, ride or die. I got the Lakers in Boston in the NBA Finals.
Coach Pettaway, the blue and gold, purple and gold and glasses on. You see me? I'm a realist. Nowhere in the world I would predict Miami to get by Cleveland. They won't even get out of the first round. Can I be honest with you? I was almost hoping. All right, Pat Riley. I was hoping that they missed the playoffs and get in the have a nice draft pick coming up.
Right. Yeah, you want to see them get in the lottery and see if they can move up in the lottery. But this time of the year, injury's going to play a big part, because that's just like now with the Milwaukee and Indiana series with Dame Lillard, he's been out all this time, and now they're saying that he may get back before the series is over with. But if he's not back, there's no way Milwaukee's going to get past Indiana. I don't think Giannis can carry them by himself. He needs help.
Good point. And some in the chat room are saying, that inexperience, you just can't count on them making it a deep playoff run because of that. Coach Graves' team, the Grave Knicks, they got an interesting series in Indianapolis. No, they got Detroit, right?
Yeah.
Physical series.
Oh, the Pistons are up and come. See, so how many up and coming teams that we can see? That, you know, have a nice draft pick coming up? Can I be honest with you? I was almost hoping. All right, Pat Riley. I was hoping that they missed the playoffs and get in the, have a nice draft pick coming up. So how many up and coming teams that we can see? That, you know, have a nice draft pick coming up? Can I be honest with you? I was almost hoping No Golden State. No. I don't
No, it's
know.
New York and Detroit. New York and Detroit are going to play, and
That's gonna
Detroit.
be interesting. A young
Right,
team.
right. That's a tough matchup now for New York
Mhm.
because Detroit is playing well. Cunningham, man, that guy's really coming to his own, and they're thinking that this might be his breakout. This playoff might be his breakout year in the playoffs. This might be
Mhm.
what propels him into that next level. So they got to be cautious. They got to be cautious.
Yeah, first game starts in 15 minutes. I believe that's Milwaukee and Indiana. Um, but young teams, OKC, Detroit, Houston. It's going to be interesting to see out of those three. I would honestly say OKC will make it the farthest.
Right. They got
As
Memphis.
for
They
yeah.
got Memphis, and I don't think Memphis doesn't have enough, in my opinion, to stop OKC.
hmm And
Right.
once again, guys, you get into the playoffs, things slow down. I think defensively, the better defensive teams will make, I think, a bigger run. And that's why I go back to OKC. Number one defensive field goal percentage, number one defense, and they've been consistent all year. So it seems like this setup is experience versus inexperience. Would we title that for this 2025 playoffs?
Yeah, definitely for sure. I mean, I was looking at that Dallas Memphis game last night. Coach Pettaway, was Memphis just that good, or was Dallas just that bad last night? Because
No,
I did not expect that. I didn't expect that. I mean, Anthony Davis showed up, 40 points. He showed up,
right,
but I didn't expect that.
But
right.
he got banged up a little bit.
He got
Yeah,
banged
he
up.
did. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
man.
yeah. You score 40 and you still can't move. That's no brainer. That's no good. But no. Memphis. I thought Memphis just played well. They played well. A lot of times people don't understand this, being at home and being comfortable with your fans and everything is, you have a routine. It really helps, man. And I think being at home really helped them against Dallas.
2025 NBA playoffs. Is there a team that could shock everybody and get to the finals or win it?
Well, for me, it's the Clippers in the West.
Okay.
I think the Clippers are dangerous in the West. And in the East, other than Boston, to me, Cleveland.
Cleveland and Boston. Most people, prognosticators, have them in the Eastern Finals. Who do you have in the Western Finals?
Now, I said I think OKC will win it.
Okay, but who will they face to win it?
I'm sorry. They'll probably end up playing. I think the Lakers will make it that far.
Wow. I don't know. Maybe I can't be objective. EA says Golden State.
Yeah, I was going to say Golden State. Yeah.
Now, the only thing about that, everybody goes to injuries, but did you notice Jimmy got hit on the quad? Oh my goodness. I fell one time and the quad wasn't kind. When I tell you sore stiffness, and I'm sure they'll drain it and stuff. And then Curry, he kind of has a sore thumb. But hey, it's this time of year. You got to get through all of that. But the Clippers are intriguing, very intriguing. Can Kawhi stay healthy through these playoffs?
Right.
I think, Carlos, for me in the West, if there's a sneaky team that no one that we haven't talked about is Denver. I mean, I do think that they prematurely fired Mike Malone, even though we're reading and hearing about just some of the issues him and the GM have had and just some of the other stuff. But you can't sleep on Denver. No one's talked about them. I think Denver's my sneaky team on the Western side. And then on the Eastern side, I kind of like Indiana. And I know no one's talking about them either, but the Pacers, when you get those guys playing on a string defensively, they can do some damage. So I think those are the two teams for me, Indiana and Denver, especially Denver, because they recently won the championship. some upheaval within that organization. GM's gone, coach is gone, and I think the Joker and those guys want to prove that we're still one of the top dogs in the NBA.
What's the point guard? His name escapes me. He's been injured. That's going to be a key too.
For Denver, Murray.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That sometimes you don't realize how important a player is until they're out. I know he was fighting an injury, and let's see how well he goes. But for the young teams, let me ask you this question: Houston, we said it was a young team, right? Detroit and OKC. Out of those, and if we're missing someone, we'll add them. Who wins? Who's the first of those young teams to win a NBA championship?
I think OKC. I think OKC will win one first. Between Houston, OKC, and Detroit, OKC.
That's a good one. I like the Houston Rockets.
I don't think
I just like Ime Udoka. He's been in the finals. Jalen Green and those guys. I mean, they've been talked about all year. Ime Udoka's a really good coach. I'm gonna take a flyer and I'm gonna say the Houston Rockets of the young trio that we talked about.
And my reason for OKC is not only can they score, they defend at a high level. See, to me, their defense is what will be the difference. If you look at these young teams, Detroit, they score, but their defense is not there. Same thing. I just think that Houston can score the basketball, but they're not up on the defensive end of the floor, and that's why I'm going with OKC. I think they'll win an NBA championship before the other two teams.
I would agree, Coach Pettaway. Also, I'm looking in the chat room. Colleague Kevin Rozier says OKC 14 losses, 13 by Western Conference team. So, Kelvin, you align with they're just not. OKC is good, but the experience
not ready for prime time.
What hurt them? Oh, well,
right. That's why I don't. That's why I don't. That's why I don't think they'll beat Boston. So remember now, they'll make it to the to the final, but I think Boston will get them because of their experience.
Yep. But you know what, Coach Pettaway? I'm glad they didn't feel that way in the regular season. I understand regular season is different than the playoffs, but they went in. And matter of fact, they went in there without Williams. I think he was out. And they went in, and Boston, you know why they lost to me, in my opinion? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boy, I think they put up about 50, 63-point shots. and OKC took that ball to the basket. Also, when you do that, they were efficient enough to score, but then they went to the free throw line.
Yep.
And then Boston's playing way out in Neverland. Doggone it, I want to see Tatum down in the post. Put him in there. And you know who else is tough? Brown. Just tough.
Yeah.
He ain't saying the East. Brown is the key to the Celtics. When he is locked in, nobody's beating the Celtics. A valid point. He can lock down your top scorer and score on the other end. I'm going for OKC. I'm going with OKC. Experience is going to not be the ultimate factor for them to not win it all. We shall see. 11:53. Coach Miller joining us in hour number 2 at about 12ish. We talked baseball, Southern baseball, in the chat room. Southern Knights, Jackson State alums. Are you happy with your baseball program? And do you think at this present moment, and do you think that they have enough in them to make a serious run? And 3, will they make the tournament? I think they will. I think Southern will make the tournament. I think Jackson State will make the tournament. A deep run? I don't think so. Just my humble opinion. So
but
that's
see,
what we talk about.
You got a lot of other people that enjoy their baseball teams now. See, because you're disappointed in Southern's baseball team, the other people may not be disappointed in theirs right now. Don't bring them into it, man.
Wait a minute.
Coach Crenshaw, all week I saw the burning trash can and all this, man. Hey, Carlos.
Wait a minute, Coach
Crenshaw finished the season out, man, and then just sit back and look at everything. We don't know. See, I'm not there. Do they have injuries? There could be a lot of reasons why. He might have players that aren't available for him. That could be the reason why Southern's not where they want to be. Now, when you go back and look at the card now, you've done well in football. You've done well in men and women's basketball. And I think bowling, you were okay. Every sport is not supposed to be dominated at a university now. There's not one in the country that does that. So everybody can have a down year. Okay. Coach Crenshaw and his Jaguar baseball team are not having their best season. So let's just give them a break and let's just wait and see how this pans out. Because if they make the tournament, anything can happen.
Anything happen, Coach Pettaway? Are you taking the place of Willa Brown?
No, I'm not. No.
Yeah, and I understand your points, and yeah, nothing is look, I gotta stop that Willie. Carlos, I'm ready to stump Mitchell this situation Monday morning.
Carlos, you need to explain the Stump Mitchell analogy for those who might not know.
Oh, I don't think I have to, but I'll do a quick version of it.
Okay.
Coach Mitchell, who I'm still in contact with, outstanding person, but they lost a Thursday night game to Mississippi Valley 6-0. And immediately, things came out. He's going to be let go. And he was let go. Now, we look at the body of work and Coach Crenshaw, and I'm not advocating for anybody to get fired. I just stated that, hopefully they'll catch fire and they do well. I said they will make the tournament. And they've lost a series to UAPB, but they could come out and win this game this afternoon and it won't be swept, right? I also said that this baseball program right now is consistently inconsistent. That first championship, kiss of death, whatever you want to call it, that's 4 or 5 years ago. What have the body of work? They made the tournament every year. I believe one year they lost to Alabama State in the finals, right? A couple of years ago. So cooler heads probably will prevail. And Coach Pettaway, I agree. At the end of the season, when it's over, then you look at where your program is at, and Coach Bankston will make their decision. Now, the fans, the majority I've talked to feel a different way. As you see, Mr. Bolden, who's still looking for 6'11" basketball players for Southern University, he's had enough. That's what he means to stump Mitchell. Willie is saying that basically something should happen Monday.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing now. Like Bolden was
I don't think that will happen, but
yeah. But now the 6'11" basketball player, they're going for around 225. So if you got 225,000, you probably can get one to get on campus. That can play. So that can play now.
That's a bold statement. Bold statement.
225. That's how much you need right now. That's the going rate.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've always said, look, if I can't get a 6'10" athletic guy, I'll fill that roster up with 6'7", 6'8" wing players that can play the 1, can play the 2, can play the 3. Necessarily we'll put them at the 4. And I think that's the way you get. And then you look at the transfer portal. You got 10,000 plus athletes and 2,000 spots. And I'm being gracious.
Right.
That math doesn't fit
at all.
Also, talking with Coach Graves is always develop the talent that you have. But unfortunately, in this society now, as a sports culture, is, Coach, they want you to win. They want you to win right away, whether you have the resources or not. But player development, I think, is still important. It's like a house. You can have a 20-room mansion, that foundation still has to be A+.
Yep.
And and that's just the way I look at it. Charles?
Yep. Because even in the SWAC, like right now, we haven't even finished out our basketball rosters. I mean, I'm sorry, the coaching carousel. We still got openings in the SWAC this late. You at the you going toward the end of April. You're in the heat of recruiting period, and you don't have a women's coach, to my knowledge, now at Prairie View yet, right? And Alcorn had not pulled the trigger yet, have they?
Nope.
Right.
And what's the deal with that? They had a press conference. We talked about a guy from Florida State that was coming on. I guess they're trying to make sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, right, Charles?
Yeah, paperwork issue, and that could be a number of things, and that's what I've been told. I was told that the candidate will still be the candidate, but it's just a matter of dotting I's and crossing the T's with that. And sometimes that does happen. It doesn't happen very often. But it does happen. So I mean, it could be language in contracts. You just never know. It could be a variety of things. But from what I've been told, still going to be the same guys, just battening up the hatches. And I'll probably know in the next probably 24 hours or so, maybe 48 hours. We'll let the Easter holiday come and go. And beginning of Monday, I think we'll probably get some things nailed down in terms of, where a press conference, when and where. It was supposed to be this past Wednesday on campus in the black and gold room, but obviously it was delayed, and so we'll see if we're going to have a press conference coming up this week or not.
Two quick things. I was reading a very good source, Prairie View and the women kind of have identified a former assistant on the University of Houston staff. We'll see how that goes, and then also Charlie Ward. Family, we were talking about that before the show. Mr. Basketball, Mr. Football, played both on the collegiate level, and we were talking with Brian Fulford about that, kind of getting the pulse of the community. If it goes down, he is selected. I wish him the best. Remembering him as a person, he was a very good person.
Yep.
Smart IQ. And so Brian Fulford says that the FAMU community is kind of excited about it.
Yep. I think that was a good hire. I mean, in the state of Florida, he has name recognition. I think that'll help them financially. I think it'll help him in terms of being able to get into households to recruit. So I think it's a win for Florida A&M.
Now, I will say, and I agree with Brian said, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of staff he develops. Right. Because of the experience thing with the NCAA, that's going to be very important. A good, Coach Pettaway, maybe you could talk about this in the future. Associate head coach. That's an interesting title, and I think that's with FAMU. Get a good staff around him, and just build the program.
Very important position. Very important.
Interesting hire, Carlos. I will say that would, there's nothing much today that shocks me in today's society with the way things are going, but that was a surprise. I didn't see that one coming. But Charlie Ward's very familiar with Tallahassee. We know his accolades and what he's done on the football field and basketball. So a very good local hire there. And Florida A&M basketball, I thought Coach Kerr was perfect for Tallahassee, in my opinion. But we know what happened there. Things went sideways, and he's at Grambling. So, but I thought that was a very intriguing hire by the folks in Tallahassee.
Yep.
Very intriguing, very interesting. Wish him the best, because we need everybody in the conference to elevate the basketball program if they can do if they can do that. And once again, so now on the men's side, pretty much done. I warned everybody. Stay away from Baton Rouge.
Stay away from Baton Rouge.
Stay away from Baton Rouge, and you did that. I appreciate that. I wonder if he had an interest, because you remember, Coach, he said that last time we had Coach Johnson on, he said he was approached by Chicago State. And he chose, I guess, to say, nope, I'm going to stay where I'm at.
Yeah, well, his name is out there. because everybody has seen the job that he's done since he's been at Southern. And really, this goes before he even got to Southern. You know, he already had a great reputation. He's a go-getter when it comes to recruiting, that kind of thing. So, and then to come to Southern and have the success that he's had, his name's going to always be out there.
Here's my question, guys. Tulane coach went to North Texas. I wonder how heavy Coach Johnson's name was mentioned as a potential replacement at Tulane.
You see my facial
I'm
expression.
just saying. I mean,
that's the second time he's asked that.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it would. If it happened, it wouldn't surprise me at all because it doesn't take much to reach back and go back and get that. No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. He's familiar with Tulane. He's familiar with the air. He's familiar with all of that. It's just a couple of years out. He hadn't missed much. So, I mean, it would make sense. And from a financial standpoint, you know how much Tulane could pay. You know, this contract at Southern's pretty sweet. But Tulane would be offering more. And the question is he willing to go back there and do that? But obviously that didn't happen. But it makes you go, I wonder, were there some overtures there?
Tulane to me is not just a knock it out place where everybody's running to get there. The arena's small. They're in the conference. It's a slight upgrade, but if Coach Johnson wants to do better, he can do better. He can do better than Tulane. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so he's happy right now. We'll say, tall man, I want a sample when we're looking. I'm happy with Coach Johnson. I need him to start thinking big men, though. Oh, goodness. Go Willie Bowden. Coach
You mean Carlos Sample?
I told, yeah. They like Carlos down there.
Okay.
But this is what I was telling Bowden. Y'all got to come up with y'all want the 6'11" guy? You need, where is the NIL? Where is the collective? That's what y'all need. If you get the bag for Coach Johnson, he can get one. Had a bag. Look at what happened to the quarterback in Tennessee. He wasn't satisfied with 2.4. His family wanted $4 million. And what did Tennessee do? They said, okay, you and your family, here it is. Don't let that door hit you as you're going out because we're not giving you $4 million.
Well, I mean, I do think, though, guys, I think this needs to be a topic of discussion going forward because of NIL, and probably for us, it's on a much smaller scale than what we're seeing right now.
Much
smaller. Yeah. What would be the going rate to get a quarterback to play in the Southwestern Athletic Conference? One of those, we're not saying top tier, but just those others that's in that grind and that mix that would fit a program like a Florida A&M or a Southern or an Alcorn or a Jackson. What would be the going rate? Because if Coach Pettaway put it out there, bring the bag. And, several years ago, Coach Thornton, who's now at Tennessee State, the first thing he talked to a recruit about is, Coach, how much money you got? And I'm sure that's probably these underlying conversations too. So I think we need to talk about that as well. How much can our collectives give? How much are we willing to give? How much are we able to give to get that 6'11" center or that top quarterback or that top running back or that top wide receiver or a huge guard or tackle? Do we need to start talking about that in our conversations?
Don't hold your breath on that one. I just don't know. Give me in basketball, as I said before, and we'll go to timeout because I guess it's waiting. Give me that 6'8", 6'9", 6'7" guy, 6'7", 6'8", athletic, can play multiple positions. The bigs, and they got some bigs in the conference already, but they didn't do that well, did they? They didn't help their team as much. So with that being said, player development is still important. But I get it. But I get it. I get it. And in today's time now, you paying for success. But I say success could be measured the old-fashioned way as well, hard work.
Yep.
That's just me. On that note, we'll take a timeout. When we come back, Coach Miller is in the back room, the backstage waiting. We'll talk some Southern University football next. You're watching the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We shall return.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Our guest now will join us, the defensive coordinator for Southern University football, Coach Henry Miller, joins us on the show right now. And remember the Dog Day defense. Well, he left? Okay. We'll get it. Hopefully we'll get him back. Charles, that chant, Dog Day defense. And the past few years, Southern's defense has been near the top. You know,
I thought you were going to say another chant.
What's that?
Defense, Jags, defense. A lot of man. That gets under my skin. I mean,
come on,
Charles. That was the chant you were talking about. But yeah, so Southern defensively was really good last year. I mean, in the fourth quarter and overtime, when it was time to lock it down, they did. So, the Jaguars did well, but defensively is kind of what toted the mail for them, I thought, a lot of the year, especially down the stretch when they needed to get stops, they got stops. And that's what wins championships, defense. And Southern had a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and their
Division
defense
championship.
kept them in the games too. Their Southern's defense kept them in. Nobody just ran away with them, man. So they was always there knocking on the door because of the defense.
Well, hopefully we'll have Coach Miller back. He was in the backstage, so our producer extraordinaire will let us know.
So now, Carlos, now did you go to the A-Day game for Southern?
No, I didn't make it.
Okay.
Now,
what's the big thing
under the
that
weather.
came out of that? I know you said that you all found a backup quarterback.
Yeah, Mr. Jones. He came from JUCO, but previously in the conference, he was at Mississippi Valley State. Coach Graves talked about Woods is still the starter until otherwise, but in the fall camp, the competition will open back up. Woods, I think, had a slight groin injury. Am I saying it right? Hamstring. I'm sorry. Hamstring. But offensively, they seem to be better. Last year at this time, they had other quarterbacks, and Jalen Woods was deep in the depth chart, right? But from the wide receiver core, they're still looking to add some pieces. Running back area, they're young, explosive running backs, but since the portal has opened up, they're looking to add some pieces in the running back room. Now they've got tons of O-linemen and defensive linemen. Some will come in the summer. Some they've signed already that came in January. So it looks like they're looking from a depth standpoint to fill in those positions. They got a commitment from JUCO All-American this past week, defensive back of that they're adding. So they're just adding the pieces, and the program at this point now, this spring they're in a better condition, because Coach Graves now is in his second year, his second spring. So it's all now pointing to the offseason, and then that SWAC MEAC challenge. And you notice I said SWAC MEAC.
Yeah.
Against North Carolina Central, week 0.
Right.
That's going to tell us a lot. And then the next week, Southern plays at Valley, and then their home opener is against Alabama State.
Right. So that's tough. That's tough. But last week we had our maroon and white game, our 80 game. I was able to go up. I was really impressed with the turnout. Our fans were really excited about Coach Shades, and they showed up in mass for that. They didn't show that much in terms on the field. When I say didn't show, they purposely did not show that much out there on the field. And our fans are excited. He's got some of the transfers from Miles that are coming, some of the better players that were at Miles plan to be here at Alabama A&M. So it was a great day, and Dante Jackson was there. So they introduced Dante at the A-Day game to some of our fans, and it was just a great atmosphere. So there's a lot of excitement on the hill right now.
And speaking of that, we have Coach Miller backstage, so we'll bring him forward, and let's see, he's coming in. Coach Miller, are you there? Oh, there we go. Coach Miller, can you hear us? We'll have to work on it. Let's see. Coach, can you hear us? Okay. Well, we'll see if we can get him in. I guess he's having a little technical issue there.
Carlos must be like us, AT&T, huh?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, actually, everything else looks good on this end.
Yeah. No, I was just trying to be funny. Yeah. But no. Everything we're doing today is outstanding. Yeah.
But I do think you were bringing up a point about these games, these purple and gold games, the A-Day games. You're just wondering now with the tampering, and I was talking with the coach the other day. Tampering is real even at our level. It is. We need to talk more about it. Tampering is real. And it's like now, even with football, you wonder how much on these purple and gold scrimmages, blue and gold, blue and white, how much do you really show? Do you still have one a full glorified? I know Coach Graves says he's going all out. But I know I'm just thinking how many coaches are saying, yeah, we are, but we're not. We'll give fans a little bit of something to tickle them with. But other than that, we ain't gonna go that deep in it because we don't want the unfortunate reality, which is players are being tampered with, and the portal window's closing here in a few days. But just how much are these coaches really putting out there? Some big teams not even having a game, because they don't want to be their players be tampered with. So I'm just wondering, is that trickling down to our level?
Well, I've always thought overall generally with the spring games, it's basically basic and vanilla anyway. Talking to coaches now, former coaches, they don't show a whole lot. They don't in most cases. So, the tampering and what have you, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but is it that they're making adjustments because of that? The tampering, probably so. But in general, to me, spring and the spring game, it's basically basic. And I don't think they show everything. You don't show your whole hand in the spring. You'll show it somewhat later in fall camp, and then you guard it then as well.
Right. But tampering, I think, is a big thing. It's in all sports, and they'll come right on your campus, man. And I think that's why some of the places they're not showcasing some of the athletes because they don't want people to come and poach them. That's the big thing. Yep.
Coach Miller, do we have you?
Look at Edwin. Edwin said we're using Brian's Wi-Fi.
Let's see. We may have him now. Coach Miller, can you hear us?
No, they're still working on it.
Yeah. Let's see. Coach Miller.
You guys, I'm here.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear y'all. Can y'all hear?
Yeah.
Yes.
Coach Miller.
I'm trying to
welcome
get in.
To the show. We finally kind of. Yeah,
y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Welcome to the Coles Brown Show again, and Coach, we were kind of talking about spring practice and spring games being just basic right now. But for your unit,
good.
For your unit, how did you feel about your accomplishments in the spring? Okay, I think Coach is having a problem. Let's
the
let's
guys
take
that I want to get a heavy look at. I had an opportunity to do that. Guys that I know that can help us going forward. Of course, we got some more guys coming in. Okay, let me see on my
log out and log out and log back. Log out and log back in. I'm right. Yeah. Technical difficulties there. Yeah, he's delayed. Okay. But he was talking about getting a good look at his unit defensively. I mean, you got Kelvin Givens coming back, All-American. On the back end, you got players coming back. And the last few years, defensively, they have been in the top 3. So that's a good place to start, and for them, Southern, to continue to work and get better defensively, guys.
Yeah, I thought Southern up front was just dominant last year. I mean, there were games in which I saw up front, they were just whipping people. And I thought that was one of the big keys of their defense. If they can bolster that, continue to bolster that, get after the quarterback, I think Southern will be strong. Woods coming back. That quarterback room will look a little different. Fred McNair is now the quarterback's coach there. Coach Todd leaves to go to Fort Valley. So that's going to be a little bit different. But, I think you can say, Carlos, that defensively, that's where Southern earns their lunch. And if they can be that good again this year with the kind of different pieces offensively, I think Southern will be right there again.
Oh, I would agree. And overall, we kind of talked about their schedule, the new pieces that's coming in. But O-line and D-line is basically where they put a lot of emphasis on through the JUCO ranks, through the portal, and also through the high school ranks. So I like the balance, what they're doing, because I know it's tempting to go all transfer portal, and we've seen some football programs in the conference do that. But then you have some that are balanced, and for some it has worked. You know, every day I'm seeing, I get a notice, a notification. FAMU has gotten somebody from the transfer portal. Jackson State has got somebody from the transfer portal. A lot of times it's from the FBS programs, some FCS. So that is one way you can get it done. But I still believe in having that balance. And from the high school ranks, to me, it seems Southern has leaned heavily on the JUCO ranks. Now, they're not high school athletes, but they're not from the portal, but they have playing experience, Coach Pettaway. And so that's where Southern has leaned. But for other schools, they've leaned the other way, specifically through the transfer portal.
Yeah, I think a good mixture is what everybody needs to look at because I don't think you need to overweigh it one way or the other. I think you got to have a good balance.
Mm-hmm.
Balance to me is important.
Now, also with Southern University, and Coach Frederick shared this with me, they only have 2 quarterbacks for the spring, right? Jones was one, the one we talked about earlier from JUCO, from Mississippi Valley State, and he told me that they're looking to add, some more pieces as far as in the quarterback room, receiver, and running back room. Coach Miller, are you there? Can you hear us? Miller, I think he's still having problems. I think Coach Miller, we'll just have to reschedule. Sorry about that. With that being said, they're going to add more pieces to the quarterback room, the running back room, the receiver room, if they can find, because they're looking for some good tall receivers. But with that being said, when it comes back for fall camp and summer condition, and since they're playing in week 0, Southern's going to come a bit earlier than usual. Thus, we say this football season is all year, Coach Pettaway. And you can say that about basketball.
All sports are now. All sports
Right.
are year round. When I think one of the best things they ever did to help college basketball was allow coaches to work with the kids in the summer. I never had that opportunity. I have never had that opportunity to work with the kids during the summer because that came in a year or 2 after I left. And we have been fighting and complaining, especially on our level. Our kids are the ones that need to work. In order to develop our kids, our kids need more development than some of the kids at the Power 5 schools. So it was paramount that we get that access to them during the summer. And doing it just 14 hours a week, that's not bad, man. That's not taking away a kid's entire summer. And it gives them a leg up. When they allowed you to do that, it increased the graduation rate in basketball because you had to be enrolled in summer school in order to participate. So that means that the kids are taking classes. So they're getting a leg up on their education at the same time, and then they're developing as players. And to me, that's a big key. You want to develop your kids, but you got to have the access to them in order to do it.
And that's interesting that you state that, because talking to former head football coach Richardson, they were able to have the kids in summer school, and then they also can keep an eye on them, working out training. And the big guys, they tend to, if they're at home, they'll kind of go away from the table, then come back to the table. And so those big guys, you kind of want to watch, not just them, but everybody. So having them on campus, continue to work toward their degree, work out, school workout, and then when fall camp comes, it's they're ready. Because I remember Magic Johnson said in the beginning of his career, Coach Pettaway, you appreciate this. You came to camp to get in shape.
Right.
But he learned very quickly, when you come to camp, you got to be ready to start because positions can be taken. And so you kind of translate that into all collegiate sports. You got to come ready.
Right. And having access to the athletes also help cut down on injuries too, because see, if you got them during the summer, they continue to work out, it helps reduce injuries, man. And that was just a great piece of legislation to help the student athletes in their development.
Excuse me, guys. I do think for all the talk and all the butchering that we do with the NCAA and some of the regulations, how antiquated it is at times, I think that those legislations in which sports is pretty much all year long and you have access to your student athletes basically all year, I think that helps because there's pressure to win now. Coaches, the transfer portal, we talked about it. There's a bunch of players out there you can go get. You can rebuild your roster every year. So you want to have access to that. You want to have them on the court. You want to have them on the field. Even, and you talked about the summer. I remember in which we didn't bring athletes in until basically August, the whole summer, maybe the second part of the summer.
Right.
That was back in the day. That can't happen now. Now, we've got our spring games behind us. There'll be a little bit of a break. Graduations are coming up. But this is towards the end of April, got about 5 weeks. Then the first week in June, they're going to be in for the conditioning, and you start this thing all over again. And then half the team will probably be in June. Half the team will probably be in the end of June and July. And then bam, fall camp starts. So it's a continuous cycle. It's a good thing because you want to keep your players sharp and you want to see what you got, what you don't have. Some players going to hit the portal. So there's a lot more in the hopper now than there was 15 years ago when the calendar was pretty shrunk. The calendar is pretty expanded now. And I remember, Landon Bussey's moved on, but he was working guys out in June, in July, full lather, full sweat, yelling, screaming. And this was in June. I'm like, my God, what's going on here? But that's Landon Bussey. And I'm sure other coaches are going to take advantage of that as well because they understand that the pressure to win and to be able to put your roster together, to see what you have, what you don't have. Those things are important now, especially with the heightened sense of winning these days and the amount of money these coaches are making. Let's throw that out there too.
Well, that's always a factor. And it also, too, you remember we've interviewed some players that were coming to Southern University. They were from other areas. And another reason to come in to get acclimated to the climate. The environment. Because, matter of fact, we visited with Chris Garcia. And later I contacted him and he said it wasn't as tough as he thought he would be. He's coming from California. And coming to Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Texas, it's more humid. So getting acclimated, no matter what sport you play, that is a conclusion. It's a year-round sports. Even when the season's not going on, you're still training, conditioning, trying to get better. A lot of the players have told me how much film they watch during the downtime. So it's a serious business. And to your point, we've talked about on this show, it's no really honeymoon period anymore as far as the coaching. The ADs they have pressure too. Their hires Coach Pettaway. They took a chance on Coach Pettaway and hired him, and he came in and did well. And that's kind of where we are with the state of athletics. It is so much pressure to win. And then let's just be honest. We talk about NIL. Our schools, they're not up here. The nice goal would be to be somewhere midways. They're really not there. I think Coach Pettaway, you told me at Alabama A&M, they get $330 a month.
Right. Yeah, they get a stipend every month, and that's just to try to do something that nobody else has been doing. So that's just the start. That's where they start. That's their starting point.
Right. And we had Coach Banks on maybe a year ago, and then we talked about cost of attendance to try to help. But make no mistake about it, NIL and all of that, they open up Pandora's box. They open up the genie's bottle, and it can't go back in. And so now our schools have to navigate through this process. And so that's why I still harp on player development is still important, because some people, like when they go to the portal, hey, should I contact this person? And the first question is, what are their thoughts on NIL? They're chasing the bag. We see some from the FCS level moved up in the transfer portal to the FBS level. One of the main reasons why. And then there's on the other side, people say, well, coaches have been able to move year to year. Why not players? So that's the other side of the conversation. But again, I try to be right in the middle, the balance part. Player development, help where we can with collective or NIL, but our schools are just not at the point where they could dump a whole lot of that kind of resource into the programs. Will it change one day? Maybe so. Will it change soon? Probably not. But that's where we are, guys. That's where we are.
I would just, from all of our schools, and I want to see all of our schools have a healthy and bolstering NIL collective, however way it works, whichever way it works. Coach Pettaway talked about Alabama A&M. We've got our 1871 collective where we do some things. I just like to continue that, because that's a part of the negotiation now. I mean, player development, I think players know they're going to get that, but at the same time, they want some money in their pocket. They want to be able to survive while they're in school. The cost of attendance piece, how much is that will help? If that helps, then maybe NIL isn't quite as much of a big deal if you're getting a pretty good cost of attendance every semester. So those are a couple of other factors that are going into that. We know Coach Carey left to go to Grambling, but we know Dante Jackson talked about it on his way out, leaving Grambling and going to A&M. A part of the reason was NIL or lack thereof, which was kind of a surprise to me, because even though I hadn't heard much about Grambling and what they were doing in NIL, I thought they were doing something. And so it seems like they're kind of behind the 8 ball there. And I'm sure Dr. Scott and others are working to try to get that caught up as quickly as possible. And Coach Carey's got to work through that coming in the door there. So that's kind of where we are. I mean, we're not going to offer the $100,000 quarterback, or maybe not even a $5,000 quarterback, I don't think. But, there's got to be some other offsets there to help make the student athlete experience financially to where they can want some money in their pocket and to be compensated, where the cost of attendance or maybe some NIL or combination of both. I think that's where we are now. If you don't have either, I think it's going to be difficult to get the quality of athlete to be able to help compete and win at a high level, because it is about, elevating. Look at what Tremaine Jackson is doing over there at Prairie View and putting out his rules for transfers and all that. I mean, he's at a whole nother level. That's a whole nother conversation. But
Charles, did we confirm that, man, or was that? You know how people make up stuff. Are we sure that was legit?
I don't know if it's legit, but it seems like, based on what we're seeing, I think there's some legitimacy to it. And it just seems to me, in trying to piece it together, that he makes no apologies for putting it out there. Now, me personally, I wouldn't put it out there as a coach.
Oh.
If it gets out and I get asked about it by the media or through these podcasters and people who do these type of things, then I'll talk about it. But would I just be out front with it? No, I wouldn't. That's just me. I just think you got to get out there and win some games and get people. And people are excited now. They had their game, their purple and gold game, and it was well attended. Folks were dancing, doing where the fans at and all that. All that was great. I like that. But you still want to improve the product, and he hasn't coached a game yet and all that. I wouldn't have done it personally, professionally. I wouldn't have done it, but to each is his own.
Yeah, well, I did see it. It's posted on social media. I guess he was just setting his rules out of what is acceptable for the transfer portal. Now, before they had the transfer portal, you had student athletes would transfer from the bigger schools to the smaller schools. And I had a chance to talk to Doug Williams one time, and he said he just laid it up front. I'm investing in you to come to our program, but you got to earn the position, right? Mm-hmm. And some fans were always excited because, hey, they're coming from a bigger school. It should be immediate success. But as I always state, our schools have had a history before it. And what we just seeing the dynamics changing in college athletics. So with that being said, with Southern, Michael Hayes, he transferred from across town, if you know what I mean, to Southern University. He came in and worked, and he did a tremendous job. So even with the transfer portal, with the NIL, the bags, the money, it still has to be a good fit to your program. And Coach Graves often talks about that when he comes on. I'm just not going in the portal just for the hell of it.
Yeah. I'm
doing my research, and is it a good fit? Now, here's what I have said before. You have some people in the student athletes in the transfer portal. They're grad students, right? They got 1 year. But I'm looking under every rock. I'm more intended to look at some of these transfer portal student athletes that are freshmen or redshirt freshmen. So you still have, if you could convince them to come to your school, you still got 3 to 5 years with them.
Right.
And and that's what I look at. But again, I understand the pressure to bring them in, a 1 year person, to get it done. Because if they win, the fans are happy, the administration is happy, everybody's happy. But again, I go back. Is player development devalued now with the transfer portal? And that's just the question. I mean, I have an answer to it, but what do you think in the chat room? What do the panel think? Is it less importance on player development because of the state of transfer portal in NIL and the changing of college athletics?
No, I think player development is still there because you still got to develop the kids that you got on your campus. So if you're gonna have a successful program, that's got to be an ongoing process. That doesn't just stop, and you don't just stop and go because of the portal. You better be developing the kids you already got on that campus. That's the way I see it now.
All right, and Charles, you gotta recruit that player every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it comes back down to poaching again. I mean, because what I'm reading, just the little stuff that I'm reading about it, is you got coaches that are investing in this kid, and you build them up, you coach them up, you develop them, and then they got stuff on tape, and then players are being poached behind the scenes, and in a year they get the bigger bag, and then they're gone, and they're like, man. I mean, but there's only so much you can do. I think the NCAA has to continue to try to shut that down, which I don't think they're going to be able to. Cat's out the bag. So the only thing you can do as a coach is develop the kids you have. You hope they stick and stay. A high level of winning. You hope your collective is strong enough and deep enough. You hope your cost of attendance is strong enough and deep enough. But there's only so much you can do. If you're at Southern or at Alcorn, and if a school I don't know, Memphis. If Memphis comes along with a much bigger bag because they have a much bigger budget, and they offer a kid a pretty good bag, they're probably going to take it. And there's nothing you can do about it. And so I think that's what makes coaches kind of hapless in a way, because you're doing all you can do on your level, but somebody swoops in with a bigger bag and bigger whatever, they're probably going to take it. And I just don't know what else you can do. It's just free market, whatever you want to call it. It's just business. It just happens. Free agency, whatever, same thing, And unless you have a salary cap or something like that, where you can only restrict, where you only got a couple of dollars, another team can come in and get you for. Unless you got some sort of system like that, we're not there. even with that. So I just think as a SWAC coach, you do it and the best package, the best NIL, the best cost of attendance, develop them as best as you can, win at a high level, get your fan base excited, and hey, maybe that student athlete will stay because of the experience, because of the Celebration Bowl, because of Atlanta, SWAC championship game on your campus, things like that. If you've done all of that, if all you can do is the best you can do, and if they get a better deal, they're going to probably take it.
Well, Coach Pettaway, I would say one, you stand on your experience, you stand on who you are as a coach. And that's all you can do. You put them in a position to help them get that degree, which is still important. You notice we're talking about NIL more than getting that degree. But that's just the time we're in. You are who you are, and you stand on that. And working in the educational system, you can identify students that are bright, academically strong right away. But you know what? It gives you a good deal of pleasure when you see a student that maybe is a C student, but they work hard, they grew, you help them, and they turn out to be an A student. And that's, to me, coaching is like teaching.
Yeah, it is teaching.
And boy, teachers, I'm going to my soapbox. They don't get paid enough for the things that they do and the things they have to put up with. And if you look at it, like I said last week is National Kidney Month. It's also Autism Month.
Yep.
Just that kids receiving information in a different way and process it in a different way. So, look, we got to do better. You can only do what you can do. And at the end of the day, you got somebody in, say it's a freshman. He stays with your program all the way to a senior, and he graduates, and he's got a year of eligibility left. In a lot of cases, you see where they go to find something new, a different perspective. You see it all across the landscape. But when you look at the transfer portal, student athletes in there compared to the slots open, wow.
Yep.
Wow is all I can say, Coach Pettaway.
Yeah, a lot of kids are being misinformed when it comes to this portal. They're not getting good advice. People not looking at it the right way. When you got 10,000 athletes and then only 2,000 slots, it doesn't add up, man. So we have to be very careful. And I would just tell the parents, you need to think about this situation. If your child is at an institution, they got a scholarship, and they're getting an opportunity to get their education paid for, you got that in your hand. Why would you risk putting your kid in the portal thinking that they're going to get it from somewhere else? Because what happens if they don't get it? Now, who's going to pay the bill? Who's paying for that education?
Mm-hmm. Fellas, and here's EA. He says it's interesting. Fellas, you guys have really forgotten the athletes had 15, 20 years ago when the coaches had all the power. A player can be denied transfer money, taken, etc. We forgot about those times, I guess. No. Remember, said the coaches were able. I said earlier, coaches were able to move. They could sign the whole class, and then they decide to take another job. Those student athletes are there. Then I think it came about where they were allowed to. If a coach leaves, then they were able to leave. I get that. I understand that. But then on the same token, on the other side of the spectrum, now those student athletes have the same opportunities as the coaches, right?
Yeah.
They can leave every year.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is stability. Some things you can't control. You can't control it. If they want to go, you said, thank you for being part of this program. If there's anything else I can do for you, let me know. And if they're gone, they're gone. I wouldn't throw a fit and stomp my feet and go on a hunger strike because they're leaving. That's their opportunity they have. But I just think you were here, then you were down here. Balance. And as we stated, you still have to develop players. But I get it, EA. I get it, EA. I understand.
But I also think from a coach's perspective, coaches are now, I mean, of course, they're making more money, but now all of a sudden, because of the fact that those players do have the controls now, they do have the power now, all of a sudden, some coaches are leaving the game. Some of the greats, the older coaches, they're kind of being nudged out the door because these coaches don't, back in the day, they had those kind of controls and levers. They don't have that now. And so you're a younger coach, you got so much more to deal with, and that just comes with the nature of the job now. But I think that's another thing to throw in this conversation where the student athlete has all the controls now. I mean, what about graduating? I mean, do student athletes even worry about that if they're making so much money at these other levels where they're playing? Is graduating important? I mean, I'm sure they'll get their degree. They'll find a way to get that. But for those who are not in that category, they're making money. And so what about if they don't make it to the next level at the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball? They got to find something, they got a bag that they saved while they were dealing with NIL. What's next for that? Do they even think about that? Probably not. Some do, some don't. And so, I mean, it's just, you're right where you are, right where your feet are. If the money's coming where your feet are, you take that. If the degree's coming where your feet are, you take that. But you'll deal with something when it comes your way. If it don't come your way, you don't deal with it. And so I think that's just kind of where student athletes are in terms of the power that they have and the influence. But this system is way out of whack. I don't know if it's going to get back to where it really needs to be. It's all money driven now. And so I think there's a lot more to think about, pray about, consider as we go forward, even at our level in the SWAC. I mean, how hard is it for Coach Graves? I mean, and I saw one of the posts, Southern does a good job in developing, Coach Graves does, but I know he's thinking about it. I know he's looking at it. I know he's trying to find a way to keep that edge going despite all those other things. And Southern's had the success because they won the division last year. We're playing for the championship. So, that's got to be a success story to be shared.
Well, he's old school.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying that. Coach Pettaway is old school.
Right.
If he was still coaching.
Right. Still would be old school. Still would be old school because there's still kids out there that want to be coached. There's kids the biggest thing is you develop them as a total person, not just as a basketball player. Yeah, you develop their skills, but you got to develop life skills also. So their kids and their parents that are still out there, because I've had parents to call me and ask me about coming out of retirement so I could coach their kids. But there's still room for old school coaches and old school values. Yeah, values. That's the big thing. You want to incorporate those values, and you want to make sure that you're pouring into these kids, man, because they all are going to be professionals. Not all of them are going to be professionals in athletics. They're going to be professionals in some other way.
Right, and two good points. And when you look at it, when we talk about NIL, we're talking about football players, basically. Number one, right? Maybe number two, basketball. What about the female student athletes? What about everybody on the team? Not everybody's first team. So it's not equal. It really isn't. If you look at it. So the genie's out the bottle.
Yep.
Can't put it back in. The best thing you do is try to navigate through this system, because that's the way it is. And so
some schools are not even, and as you're seeing now, some schools are dropping divisions. I think you're starting to see that now. The school that Alabama State beat, St. Francis. What just happened a month after they lost to Alabama State? They dropped to what, Division III?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, so the financial realities of the whole athletic picture are going to start to come into focus here over the next 90 days, 3 months. Once you get to that deadline, you're either in or you're out. And so you're starting to see a couple of examples. We've talked about it at our level. I hear this conversation from old timers all the time. It's like some of our lower tier schools, can we afford to stay D1? I've heard that even at Alcorn from some older folks, like, man, our budget, and we know what the budgets look like, but pride and just the energy and the love for those universities, for our universities, are gonna continue to push the narrative to stay where we are. But that conversation keeps coming up, and it's going to come up even more so now, because now the rubber's starting to hit the road on some of this stuff in terms of, can we afford to stay D1 with the price tag that's involved? We're paying these coaches good money, cost of attendance, these scholarships have to be paid for, cost of doing business, all that stuff. I mean, we were kind of dancing around it a little bit for 20 some years or longer, but now the rubber's starting to hit the road now a little bit, whether we can really do this long term. And so, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I think we're going to probably hold fort. Commissioner said we got some HBCU folks that's at the table when these negotiations are going on. So hopefully it'll be a soft landing for us where we don't have to make some brutal decisions. But it's coming. It's coming to where we're looking at this stuff every day and like, can we keep plowing forward the way we've been plowing forward?
Well, I look at life in general as a people. We've been through a lot, right?
Oh yeah.
But we always standing upright. We fall down sometimes, but we stand up. And I think that is a mentality that will keep what's ours. We'll get through it some kind of way. Is it going to be easy?
No.
But we fall down, but we get up. And that's a mentality that we have to have. And if we got to go in the room, and I've said it before, we've got enough talented people in the different spheres that can get it done, can come together and get it done. Do we need to drop? Do we need to help this institution in the conference? We need to help them to move forward. Sometimes back in the day, you didn't have a choice. We dragged you along.
Yeah. See, that's going to be the big thing. Are you going to continue to do that? Do you still want to follow that same path?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it, from a business standpoint. Dr. Cavill talks about it. It's 2025. You can't have that model in the 1990s or even the 2000s because it's ever changing. I have hope, Charles. I have hope that we'll get it done some kind of way.
I do too, but my thing is, in today's society, to me, is that there has to be a constant flow of information. And Wheeler Brown's talked about this too, when we could kind of dabble into this conversation. There has to be a constant flow of information to inform people of where the target is. It's ever moving. Things are changing weekly, daily. And I know it's hard to have those daily conversations, but we got to stay on point in terms of where we were Monday as compared to where we are on Saturday. Because it is changing, it is flowing, it is ever changing. And so we need to know where we are so we can kind of be better informed. We can be ill-informed or misinformed. Both are not good. When you're not informed, that means you're just taking the ball and run with it. You don't know where to go. But when you're ill-informed, that means you're getting information that's not correct. So I would like to see both, more information and correct information, so we know as fans, as a product of an HBCU. I don't want to see us do this. But at the same time, just let me know where we are. Let's get back to the table and have a conversation and see where we go from here.
It's called transparency.
Mm-hmm.
That's always a good thing. Again, I think we'll get it done some kind of way. Coach Pettaway, I'll look back 500 years from now. I'll be looking down and I'll say, we're still here.
Yep.
Never said life was going to be easy.
Yep.
On that note, we got about 2 minutes left. We apologize. We weren't able to get Coach Miller on for technical issues, but we'll try to reschedule him back. Next week, I'm scheduled to have a person from the transfer portal. She is coming to Southern University from a FBS, quote unquote, but we're all Division I, right, in basketball anyway.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to that person. She's enjoying this weekend. We hope to have her next week as well. NBA playoffs, Pettaway and Charles have Boston. I have OKC. If I get it right, I'm going to just brag about it.
And Melody has Boston too.
Yes.
Melody has Boston.
And, well, I'm not going to say nothing bad about the producer.
Right. And with 5:24 left in the second quarter, Indiana's up 49-36 over Milwaukee.
Not surprised. Greek Freak.
Yep.
You're so loyal to Milwaukee. Come on to South Beach, baby. Come on to South Beach.
Miami. Dame Lillard should have been in Miami, Carlos.
Yeah, but that was a conspiracy. I still believe that to this day.
Been in Miami. Jimmy Butler was in Vegas, ready for Dame to sign that contract so they can be bragging in Las Vegas. And I think the franchise went sideways ever since. My opinion.
Your opinion. On that note, tampering is really bad. Have a great one. We'll see you next Saturday at 11 a.m. for the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Peace.
All right.